used for all the infrahyoid muscles. Here we can see it is yellow. Then, under the proper fascia of the neck, there is endocervical fascia, fascia endocervicalis. It covers internal organs of the neck, and in it, two layers are distinguished. It is parietal layer and visceral layer. So parietal layer of this endocervical fascia, it covers all the organs together. Then visceral layer covers each organ separately. And the last fascia, it is prevertebral fascia, fascia prevertebralis. It surrounds prevertebral muscles. It means deep muscles of the neck. This medial group of deep muscles of the neck. Okay, these are fascia of the neck.
Pterygomandibular referee.
Pterygomandibular what?
Referee, I think. Pterygomandibular something. Pterygomandibular something.
Here,
I just confused.
Shevchenko classification are the best.
I think it's from lateral side, actually, Kajal. Pterygomandibular. I know there is pterygomaxillary fascia, but about pterygomandibular raphe, actually, I don't know. Okay. Okay. You will not have to draw it, yes, but you have to understand it and explain, yes, as well as triangles of the neck. You also shouldn't draw them. And so the last thing that you have to study for the next lesson, these are muscles of the head. So all the muscles which we study in myology are, they are skeletal muscles, and they are formed by striated muscular tissue. Please, head muscles, yes, striated muscular tissue. So what is the difference, Akash, please tell us, between striated and smooth muscular tissue?
Striated muscles having the line are present, and the smooth muscles, they are not present. Smooth muscles are present in the organ parts.
Yes, and functionally, what is the difference between them?
Striated muscles are helped in the contraction and the relaxation, and the smooth muscles are the
also help in contraction and relaxation. Yes, striated muscular tissue is voluntary, and smooth muscular tissue is involuntary. Yes, actually there is the third type, that is cardiac striated muscular tissue, and it is involuntary. But it, like when we look into the microscope, yes, also there are striated. Okay, so this in the head. Two groups of muscles are distinguished. Masticatory muscles, and masticatory muscles, they help in mastication, in speech, so in any movements which we perform by the mandible, yes, in the temporomandibular joint. And the second group, it is muscle of facial expression. Both of them are also formed by striated muscular tissue, but you have to know the difference between skeletal muscles and muscles of facial expression, or mimic muscles, they also know, yes? So all the skeletal muscles, they originate from the bone, and they are inserted to the other bone, yes? And during contraction of this muscle, one bone approaches the other bone. This muscle, mimic muscles, they also originate from the bone, but they are inserted to the skin. Yes, to the skin. And so they are located also more superficially than skeletal muscles, and they are not covered by fascia. So all the skeletal muscles are covered by fascia, and these muscles of facial expression are not covered. And what else can we say? That they surround natural orifices of the head, like oral cavity, nasal cavity, orbits, yes, ears, yes, and also they nearly do not have antagonists. Like if skeletal muscles, there are nearly always antagonists. Like if there is flexor muscle, there must be extensor muscle. Then here there are no antagonists. Usually, contraction of mimic muscles causes formation of any fold in the face, yes, to reflect the emotion, and then returning of the skin into the previous position is performed passively. So during relaxation of this muscle of facial expression, there are no antagonists in these muscles. So about muscles of facial expression, you should know that they are divided into 5 groups. So there are muscles which surround the mouth, the oral cavity, nose, orbit, auricle also, no, ear, yes, yes, muscles of the auricle, and there are also muscles of cranial vault, Here, occipitofrontal muscle and temporoparietal muscle belongs. You have to know all the names of the muscles, yes, you have to be able to show them, and you should know the action. Usually action of the muscle is reflected in the name, yes? So if it is musculus depressor anguli oris, it's obviously that it is muscle that depresses angle of the mouth, yes, it's obviously, and so on. You here, you should know place of origin and insertion for this muscle. But when you pass this exam, is it asked? Okay, and masticatory muscles. So masticatory muscles, they are 4. And from its name, it's also clearly it's clear that they act for mastication. So when we studied craniology, we were saying that there is only one mobile bone in the skull, it is mandible. So actually if we count hyoid bone is also mobile, yes. And when we studied joints of skull, we were also saying that there is only one synovial joint, yes. What is it?
Repeat again.
What I like that all of you can pretend that you are listening to me.
Synovial joint in the skull.
In the skull, yes, between bones of the skull.
Temporomandibular
Yes,
joint.
temporomandibular. So all of these masticatory muscles, they act onto the temporomandibular joint. They are 4. It is mesenteric muscle, yes, and then temporalis muscle, and there is lateral and medial pterygoid muscle. So we will start from mesenteric muscle, musculus mesenterica. It originates from inferior border of the zygomatic arch, yes, and zygomatic arch is formed, you remember, by zygomatic process of temporal bone, zygomatic bone itself, and zygomatic process of the maxilla, and then it is inserted to the mesenteric tuberosity of the mandible. So the action of this muscle is to elevate the mandible. Then this one is temporalis muscle, musculus temporalis. It occupies the whole temporal fossa, so that's it. Yes, and then it moves, like all the bundles, they also converge, and they are inserted to the caranoid process of the mandible. And the action is also to elevate the mandible and to pull it backward. Lateral and medial pterygoid muscles. So medial pterygoid muscle originates from pterygoid fovea or pterygoid fossa that is located between medial and lateral pterygoid plates of the sphenoid, of the pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone, and it is inserted to the condylar process of the mandible and to the intra-articular disc, yes, it is in the cavity of temporomandibular joint, so that's it. And lateral pterygoid muscle, it is between lateral plate of the pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone, and it is inserted to the pterygoid tuberosity. So if you remember structure of the mandible, you remember that at the angle of the mandible, there is, on the external surface, there is mesenteric tuberosity, yes, and on the internal surface, there is pterygoid tuberosity. So mesenteric tuberosity is a place of insertion for mesenteric muscle, and pterygoid tuberosity is a place of insertion for lateral pterygoid muscle. Yes, so these are masticatory muscles. And also the action is to elevate the mandible and to, yes, to pull it in. Okay, so that is your homework for Friday. Yes, any questions?
Pterygomandibular traphe will be here only.
This one, what is
Like this,
it?
not this one, like superficially superconstrictor of pharyngeus, and here it will be from the pterygoid fossa to the mandible and then that traphe.
But what is it? I don't know.
Like just it's like transaction between neck and like oral cavity on the back.
On the skin. It is between vaccinator muscle and superior constrictor of the pharynx, yes?
Yeah. Like on the traphe and the side.
And omotracheal triangle. So carotid triangle is bounded posteriorly by anterior margin of sternocleidomastoid muscle, anteriorly by superior belly of omohyoid muscle and superiorly by posterior belly of digastric muscle. So this is carotid triangle. Carotid triangle is named carotid because the common carotid artery bifurcates here into external and internal carotid arteries. External and internal carotid arteries. Fine. Omotracheal triangle, trigonum omotracheale. It is bounded posteriorly by anterior margin of sternocleidomastoid muscle and superiorly by superior belly of omohyoid muscle and anteriorly, medially by midline of the neck. So this is a place where trachea, it's named omotracheal, yes? It is a place where trachea lies very superficially. And we use this triangle in case if we plan any operations on the trachea, like tracheostomy, yes? For example, if a person is suffocating, there are any obstructions in upper respiratory tract, yes, we need to insert a tube to the trachea to give him the air, yes, to provide him with entrance of the air into the lungs, yes? So we choose, yes, we use omotracheal triangle. Okay, and here in the lateral cervical region, there are two more triangles. It is omoclavicular triangle and omotrapezoid triangle. They are separated from each other by inferior belly of omohyoid muscle. Omoclavicular triangle is bounded superiorly by inferior belly of omohyoid muscle, anteriorly by posterior margin of sternocleidomastoid muscle, and inferiorly by the clavicle. Yes, omoclavicular triangle is a place of location of brachial plexus, these are nerves, yes, and internal, subclavian, yes, artery and vein, they pass here. So omotrapezoid triangle is bounded inferiorly by inferior belly of omohyoid muscle, anteriorly by posterior margin of sternocleidomastoid, and posteriorly by anterior margin of trapezius muscle. And here in the omotrapezoid triangle, there is cervical plexus. These are also nerves. So these were superficial muscles of the neck. Deep muscles of the neck also consist of two groups. So please, deep muscles of the neck. I need the other. No, thank you. Something. Thank you. So deep muscles of the neck, they are located in the lateral group.
Incoming call from Varsha CSMU Russia.
Lateral group includes scalene muscles. Here we can see them. There are three scalene muscles. Here we can see them also, yes. Anterior, middle, and posterior. So this is anterior scalene muscle, musculus scalenus anterior. It originates from anterior surfaces of transverse processes of cervical vertebrae from the third to the sixth. And then it goes downward and it is inserted to the first rib. So when you studied structure of the first rib, yes, you were saying that on the superior surface of the first rib there are two grooves, yes, groove for subclavian vein and groove for subclavian artery, and they are separated from each other by means of tubercle for anterior scalene muscle. So that is a place of insertion of the anterior scalene muscle. That's it. Behind it, there is middle scalene muscle, musculus scalenus medius. It originates from middle parts, lateral surfaces, yes, of transverse processes of cervical vertebra from the second to the fifth. And it is also inserted to the first rib, to the superior surface of the first rib. I know muscles of the neck. Behind the groove for subclavian artery. And so these two muscles, anterior scalene muscle and middle scalene muscle, together with the first rib, together with the groove for subclavian artery on the first rib, they form interscalene space. Interscalene space. So this you have to know the topography. Yes, you have to know how Вы можете это, пожалуйста, in silence. Could you please do it in silence? Thank you. What? So this interscalene, through this interscalene space, subclavian artery passes. Here we can see it, and also brachial plexus. These are nerves. This is artery, subclavian artery. So this is interscalene space, and behind middle scalene muscle, there is posterior scalene muscle, musculus scalenus posterior. That is it. So posterior scalene muscle originates from posterior surfaces of transverse processes of cervical vertebrae from the second to the fifth, and then it goes downward and it is inserted to the second rib. So the action of all of these muscles, scalene muscle, is to elevate upper ribs. Yes. Okay, so, yes,
The topography of brachial plexus.
what do you
The
mean?
question was.
What, are you asking what we should say in this question?
No, I mean like the topography of the brachial plexus. What is? It's passed through interscalene space.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then it passes through superior axillary aperture, so it continues to axillary cavity, and that part that passes in the interscalene space, it is supraclavicular part, and when it goes to the axillary cavity, it is infraclavicular part. Yes. Okay, and so medial group of the neck, deep muscles of the neck, it also includes 4 muscles. It is musculus longus colli, so long muscle of the neck, musculus longus capitis, long muscle of the head, and musculus rectus capitis anterior, and musculus rectus capitis lateralis. Алло? Да, да. So here there are also 4 muscles, I told you. There is musculus longus colli, musculus longus capitis, musculus rectus capitis anterior, and musculus rectus capitis lateralis. So the largest of them, it is musculus longus colli. It consists of 3 parts: vertical part, inferior oblique, and superior oblique part. Stand up, please. Longus colli, yes, I told you. Longus colli muscle has 3 parts: vertical part, inferior oblique, and superior oblique. So first, vertical part of longus colli muscle, it originates from anterior surfaces of the bodies of the thoracic vertebrae from the 3rd to the 6th, and then it goes and it is inserted to anterior surfaces of the bodies of cervical vertebrae from the 3rd to the 6th. So inferior oblique muscle, inferior oblique part also originates from anterior surfaces of the bodies of thoracic vertebrae, and then it is inserted to transverse processes of the lower cervical vertebrae. And then superior oblique originates from transverse processes of lower cervical vertebrae, and it is inserted to the anterior surfaces of the body of upper cervical vertebrae. So the action of this muscle is flexion of the neck. Yes, flexion of the neck. Musculus longus capitis. If I confuse the numbers, it's okay. I can confuse the numbers. Okay. Musculus longus capitis originates from anterior surfaces of the bodies of cervical vertebrae, and it is inserted to the basilar part of the occipital bone. So then musculus rectus capitis anterior originates from anterior surface of the atlas and axis, and it is inserted to the basilar part of occipital bone. And musculus rectus capitis lateralis also originates from atlas and axis, and it is inserted to lateral parts of occipital bone. So actions of these 3 muscles is flexion of the head. Yes. So this is medial group of the muscles of the neck. One more thing that you have to know. Where is my paper again, please? Да, thank you. Please, and this also, please. And this it's fine. Well, one more thing that you have to know about the neck. These are fascia of the neck. Fascia of the neck. So connective tissue coverings, yes, for muscles, group of muscles. So according to different sources, there are from 3 to 5 fascia in the neck. When you reach topographic anatomy, we will discuss all the variants. Now, we study the best variant that is approved in Russian Federation.
Ясиницкий.
Shevkunenko. What? So, according to Russian version, and Russians are always correct, of course.
They are five.
They are
Of course.
They are five.
They are five. Yeah.
They are five. Just the other nationalities they cannot see the rest. It's okay. So first, superficial fascia of the neck, the most superficial, fascia colli superficialis. It covers the neck from all the sides, and at the lateral margin of platysma muscle, it splits into 2 layers, yes, and it surrounds platysma muscle, and then they join again together, and they continue to the other side. So this is superficial fascia of the neck. Under the superficial fascia of the neck, there is proper fascia of the neck, fascia colli propria. It consists of 2 layers. There is superficial layer and deep layer. So superficial layer of the proper fascia of the neck, it encloses trapezius muscle from posterior side and then sternocleidomastoid muscle from anterior side. And also it is circular.